Hi, me. Wasn't sure how we're going to present this. So essentially, what I did is basically what I told you. So I already kind of ran through. I worked at Vans, New Balance, Lexmark, and then I did a lot of freelance on the side. I even had my own kind of t-shirt or slash clothing company for a little while, but I ended up having to close that down because I was spending too much time traveling to Kentucky for 2 years to see the girl I met on the plane. I'm wearing age now, just so you guys know. So while I was at Vans, like I said, I started off in helmets, and I also did when Vans bought ProTech, the helmet company, I got to work on snowboard bindings and snowboard boots. You guys know who Danny Cass is? Eddie Wall, 2 of the best snowboarders ever. That's okay, it's cool. Basically, I got to work on them and work with their bindings, and every summer go up to Mount Hood in the summer and snowboard with them and decide on what designs and what patterns that they wanted to use. So it's essentially a design role, but at the same time, it was a bit of fulfilling a marketing role. And a lot of times we had to condense the riders into a new path because someone like Danny wanted a binding that looked like a sandwich, and we had to say, if you make it black, you'll sell more and make more money. So being inspired from that, this slide should be a little bit I messed up. So being inspired from that, I actually left Vans and took 4 months off just to snowboard, just because I was inspired by all the riders and the people around me, just to kind of reassess. And then while I was doing that, I did some freelance. So I did some freelance for Fossil at the time, worked on some watches, and you really can't see that. And then went to New Balance. And while at New Balance, I was lucky enough to have one of my first cuts just become a patented sole technology, which doesn't happen that often. And then worked on some running shoes and some trail shoes, helping define like the new Balance kind of look and feel. I've actually seen a few of you wear some of my shoes, which is really cool, but I'll never tell you like you're wearing my shoes. It's too embarrassing. The big epiphany for me really happened at New Balance when I kind of got inspired one weekend, and over the course of 2 days, I used Flash, and I can teach Flash anyone who wants to learn it. I created a rebranding campaign called One More. And the premise was based off of, have you ever worked out or ran and you thought to yourself, just one more lift, just one more mile, just one more step? The whole premise of the rebranding campaign was that everybody thinks that, no matter what type of athlete they are. And New Balance had done such a poor job with their branding that I wanted to kind of pitch a new thing to them. So I started small with just my group, built to other groups just by word of mouth, and then word of mouth spread and spread and spread. I made all the posters, I made all the flyers, I actually spent $1,000 of my own money to make t-shirts and have them printed, and it eventually came to the CEO, and the CEO called me and said, I want to see the presentation, do you mind? And no one knew that I had made the t-shirts. So what happened is the CEO showed up and I decorated the entire office, which is easily the size of Ross, with my fake campaign, and then 100 people walked in the room in the shirts. And it eventually led to the rebranding of New Balance in 2007. They didn't go with One More. They went with a different idea, but it kind of called attention to the poor branding. So that got me really stoked about maybe I'm more than a designer. Maybe there's more to me than this, because this was a little bit more marketing and branding. So I took the fearlessness with me to Lexmark. And within the first month, pitched an idea to the CEO about a new touchscreen. Okay, so everyone knows about touchscreens now with the iPad and the iPhone, but at the time it was still very, very new, and Apple hadn't even launched the App Store yet. And the idea was to make printers a smarter, basic machine. And I won't get into the details of it, but it launched 2 years ago, and it was a huge deal for me. And while also there, created what we call the Innovation Lab. And what it did is it was essentially just a website that allowed people to submit ideas, people to vote on the ideas. The highest votes got approval, and then from the approval of the ideas, it went to the executives for the presentation. Our executive's last name was Brooke, so it's the little icon. And then once it was approved, it kind of went through. So that's kind of the history of what I've been and where I'm going. What I thought I could do is that I love marketing and I love branding, but I didn't know a lot about it. And what I'm seeing happening is companies like Nike, Samsung, Whirlpool, Nissan, basically every single car company are starting to have vice presidents of design, but designers aren't really trained for that. And those of you that have worked with creatives, and creatives that have worked with engineers and also marketing people understand that there is a difference in the way that we talk to each other, the way we speak. So what I want to do is come to school and learn how to do that much better. And then eventually go out into marketing or do a consultancy job and work very hard along here on the D&B Club. And the final goal is being a vice president of one of these companies, start my own consultancy, and then continue educating during the process. I would like to make Ross a good place for designers to come, or other businesses to come, to learn more about how to use designers and creative capital effectively. And as far as my T-shape, I'm everywhere. I've done soft goods, I've done hard goods with helmets. Most people don't know this. You have to do clay models like cars, so I've pulled plenty of clay. I've done interface design. I would say, like, if I had to, I know this is a bit of a cop-out, my line down is probably design and empathy as a core, the ability to identify with the consumer and talk and speak to their needs. Lastly, a discussion about just design in general. So Lexmark was such a bad company to work for as far as design goes. Some companies know what they're doing and some companies don't. I think Lexmark, because they were so bad, was a good place for me to be because I learned what the value of design truly was. And what I learned was that design really isn't about colors or shapes, because at New Balance it was a lot of kind of fluff, but it's about communicating. And what I had to do to get this the touchscreen to go forward was a lot of executive education on the power of what good design can be, of what good customer experience can be. Those of you that are doing the Amazon competition kind of know what I'm talking about when I mention customer experience. Companies do see value in differentiating that way, but a lot of companies don't know how to utilize it. So in speaking to the executives, I had to mention that these are the reasons why we're picking certain things. Marketing issues. Unfortunately, design and marketing don't get along that often because they, like I said, they speak two different languages. And one of the things I was hoping to do while I was here is really help, like I said, both designers and marketing people understand each other. And one of the things I wish I had more while I was there was time to work with them, but I think I'll have that here. And lastly, design thinking. I've used that everywhere. I don't really know how to define it because I think it's been more of a lifestyle.